Today's guest in our series of energy talks is Ed Daniels. Mr. Daniels is the Executive Vice President for Strategy and Portfolio in Shell. His career spans roles in Shell's upstream, integrated gas and downstream businesses, bringing 30 years of industry knowledge, expertise, and executive leadership experience with the company. I'm therefore proud to announce that he has accepted our invitation to chair the ONS Conference Committee towards our event in 2022. Ed, it's great to have you with us here today.
Great, Ian, thanks very much indeed. It's a real privilege to be here. Thank you for that very kind introduction.
Besides my brief introduction, who is Ed Daniels?
Well, big question. Ed Daniels is, as you've said, someone who's worked in the energy industry for over 30 years in all different parts of that energy industry. I'm British by background, an engineer, so I've started at the very front end of our business, worked in many different parts of the world on the energy industry, and have a real passion for how do we transform this industry over the coming decades from one that historically has been largely around the hydrocarbon industry to one that gets us to a place of energy transition and of net zero emissions by 2050. It's a real passion. I think it's such an exciting time to be in the energy industry right at this moment.
Being in charge of strategy and portfolio, Ed, how does Shell manage its strategy and portfolio to fit the global ambitions of a low carbon society?
Yeah, it's so challenging at the moment. I think, we're seeing the biggest changes and shifts in the entire energy system than we've seen for a generation, if not since the inception of the current hydrocarbon industry over 100 years ago. The way we think about it is we do a lot of work on scenarios. We think about what are the alternative futures, because I think one thing we can all probably agree on, we don't exactly know how the energy industry is going to unfold over the coming decades. We do know it's going to be radical change. What we don't know is exactly how it'll happen. We use scenario thinking, so we use thoughts around the politics, the geopolitics of energy, obviously modeling the entire energy system to see how it'll potentially unfold. And then through that scenario thinking, we work out what are the best possible routes that we simultaneously provide the energy that the world needs, the energy that powers progress around the world, but at the same time starts to address the challenges of energy transition, the challenges of climate change to get us to our goal, decarbonizing the energy system over the coming decades.
Thank you, Ed. The ONS Conference Committee shapes and creates the conference program for the ONS main event. And tomorrow you're chairing your first meeting in our 41 people strong ONS Conference Committee. What discussions and ideas are on your bucket list in order to shape a world-class energy conference program at ONS 2022?
I think it's a challenge that we want to go and embrace, that there is this fundamental change going to happen across the entire spectrum of the energy system. And I want this to be a point where we can debate across that entire system. So obviously, traditional oil and gas is going to form part of our energy system for decades yet to come. That needs to be part of the conversation. But in addition, of course, new forms of energy, whether that's hydrogen, renewable power, whether it's biofuels, whether then it's the sort of carbon storage technologies around CCS or nature-based solutions, the rise of power as a fundamental part of our energy system. I'd like to be sure that we have a diversity in the forms and types of energy and how they will evolve over time. But if there's one thing I feel very strongly about is that the energy system, ultimately the changes that happen have to be a compact between governments, civil society, and corporations. I'd like to be sure that we have the ability to have that wide range and diverse debate between those fundamental parties who will drive the energy transition over time. It's not just an issue of energy supply. It is what consumers and customers and governments around the world will demand of the energy system, and how we have that debate, how we work in lockstep between those three entities of governments, civil society, as well as corporations, for me, is fundamental to get right.
Thank you, Ed. And speaking of that, ONS has chosen trust as our main theme for our 2022 event. What's your reflections on how trust acts as a part of the road to global decarbonization?
I think, I'm an optimist, and I believe in the power of positive thinking in this regard. And so my view is the ONS is such an amazing platform to bring together parties for open collaboration and dialogue in a trusting environment, that we respect one another's views, we respect that there are different pathways to, as I said, keep the world powered, keep the world with the energy that it needs to grow and develop, and at the same time address climate change, address the energy transition, address getting to net zero emissions by 2050. I think that there are many pathways and many views and opinions. For me, trust is about the ability to have respectful dialogue despite differences. That when we bring together corporations, many corporations have different views on these things, governments have different views, and civil society. There are many perspectives and views in civil society around this whole subject matter. It is only by bringing those together in a place of respect, in a place of honesty and integrity in the debate, that we can possibly hope to forge a collaborative path forward on what is probably the biggest issue facing mankind today.
Thanks a lot, Ed, and not least, thanks a lot for your time this morning, Ed. And we surely look forward to meeting you tomorrow in the first conference committee meeting. So have a nice day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
That's great. Thanks ever so much. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you today. It's a daunting task. It feels an amazing privilege to be part of this venture. And my personal commitment is I'm going to do my utmost to drive the conversation and the debate in the conference to help meet those goals of powering the world with the energy that it needs, and at the same time driving decarbonization, driving climate change agenda to get to the goals that we all aspire to. Thank you very much indeed.
Excellent, Ed. See you tomorrow.